That's right. Hey, let's go. About to go. Hold on one second, everybody. I'm going to create a highlight. 1 second. There we go. Welcome to the post show for this episode. We'll come back right out of this guy. Hey, there you go. Wherein we kind of go straight to the chat room and talk to you guys. Today will be. It was nice to have Johnny in there or whatever. So and kind of anything we kind of missed out on while I was chasing down a bunch of. God knows there was plenty of news this time. And there we go. Let's see. Post show. It's terrific. There's so much news I can't keep up. I know, Julie. It's kind of stunning. I mean, obviously, some of it is trickle news. Some of like Mueller and the tariffs, I think, are kind of long legs stories, and will have to be unpacked over a good deal of time. There's Miss Julie Kelly. There's always an after party. It's a varying length, but yeah, I love catching the Million Sparks show on Saturday morning. So yeah, thanks, Kurt. Yeah, Twitter is losing bots. That's true. That's very helpful. We'll see how that goes into the election cycle. They'll watch that because there'll be a surge of new accounts in October. We'll see how well they are at how good they are at pairing them out. But let's see. Am I moving this direction? This direction. There we go. Yeah. So as we were going into the break, I wanted to bring up that little piece again. Yeah. So, Michael Cohen has hired a lawyer that worked on Clinton's behalf during the Kenneth Starr investigation, who, from a Trump legal standpoint, if Trump took him on, it would be people would think of it as a smart move because he dealt very deftly and very forcefully with the Clinton investigation, and his pushback was very strong. Kind of the kind of thing that Trump seems to want out of his attorneys, right? But in the case of Michael Cohen taking him on, it's incredibly damning that that this is a Clinton loyalist. This guy loves the Clintons, and he loves. Can I pot up my volume? Yes, I'll turn the volume up as best I can and bring that up. Is that better? Ta-da-da-da. Yeah, is volume okay for you guys? It seems pretty loud in terms of the source going in, but we'll see. But yeah, so according to this attorney, Lanny Davis, who worked with the special counsel for then President Bill Clinton in the late 1990s, he's joined Michael Cohen's team. Longtime confidant to President Donald Trump, Cohen served as his personal intensifying pressure. Following an FBI raid of his property in April, federal prosecutors later confirmed Cohen had been under investigation for several months, along with a bunch of other people who apparently were wearing wires. Lanny Davis said in a statement on Thursday, "Like most of America, I've been following the matter regarding Michael Cohen with great interest. As an attorney, I have talked to Michael many times in the last 2 weeks. Then I read his words published on July 2nd and recognized his sincerity. Michael Cohen deserves to tell his side of the story, subject, of course, to the advice of counsel." Last July, Davis penned a column for The Hill where he argued Trump and the White House are making a mistake by attacking the motives of special counsel Robert Mueller with his team of prosecutors. Cohen made a similar point in the ABC News interview this week, saying he didn't like the term witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. As an American, I repudiate Russia's or any other foreign country's government's attempt to interfere or meddle in our democratic process, and I would call on all Americans to do the same, Cohen told ABC News. On Thursday, CNN reported that Cohen recently told friends he doesn't think Trump would pardon him. I brought up the pardon, and he said, "I don't think so. I just don't think so," Cohen's friend told CNN. He's certain in his mind that he's been dismissed. Yeah. And then, of course, whatever clickbait they've got on the bottom of the article. Yeah, this is from CNN. there's been a lot of twists and turns in this in the Mueller investigation, the pushback. The Papadopoulos, drunkenly talking to an Australian, and leading to them, getting a FISA warrant, and Carter Page just going on Chris Hayes and Hayes showing embarrassing himself, and any number of Michael Flynn screaming "lock her up," and then ended up being indicted, and there's a series of elements of this that, on a narrative level, news-wise, are incredible. Like on a all the president's men kind of level, it would be huge by any other standard in any other administration, in any other circumstance. But there's something really different about Michael Cohen's relationship to the president, and this whole I take a bullet for Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has always been so great to me, and then to find out, behind the scenes, Trump is shit talking him all the time. It's really embarrassing how sycophantic Cohen was, and then even more so how quickly Trump has cast him aside, and how you find out these stories that Trump in front of family members would mock him when he's literally there in person. It's embarrassing that this guy put up with this stuff on a personal level, much less this second, as long as he let it hang on, being like Sam Nunberg is with Roger Stone. Like, I would do anything for Roger. He's like a father to me. Really? He just, because he went on the news and said you were a moron and an alcoholic and untrustworthy. He really said that? Well, Roger deserves whatever he's going to get. Like, I'm not going to testify. If they want me to say anything against Roger Stone, I'm not going to do it. By the way, Roger Stone it basically endorsed Dennis Hoff for free brothel sex, according to one of my inside sources. Not inside the brothel, I guess, technically. That sounds weird. But somebody with, how do they say it? With knowledge of the arrangement, which is pretty fascinating. Mueller keeps pricking his finger, sifting through haystacks. A lot of theirs there. Yeah, it's like looking for a needle in a stack of needles. When I tried to access political information on the day of the Mexican election, they were blocked, and they do this to prevent candidates from doing last-minute propaganda. Right. Trump means when he says witch hunt, because he's dyslexic, right? He drops the T and floats the H around. If YouTube, Google really want to decrease the propaganda, they should restrict political accounts for 6 months or so, the same way they restrict ordinary accounts from being monetized. Yeah, they would get some major pushback as far as what the broadcast and cable networks can do voice-wise, what's leading up to it. I think what they should actually say, any site that is with an email address or an identity that's outside the United States should they shouldn't be able to post politically oriented things during the last 6 weeks of an election. I think that's reasonable. Because if you're an expat and you live in Germany and you post videos, let's just say from there, let's say if our dear Julie decided she wanted to do that, then if at some point, as a U.S. voter who just lives outside the country, should be able to do that. But if you're getting these Romanian, where was the one big farm that they had, which was making a bunch of videos and stuff, and where they're making fake videos from Africans who are African Americans who aren't Americans, who are just in Africa, and releasing them in the United States to make it seem like that's what they. It's just that's what they should be blocking. let's see. YouTube has some good political channels. Rational Nation is one I like for Canadian perspective. Kyle Kalinski's Secular Talk for one side of the millennial perspective. Yep, I like Kyle show. I like David Pakman as well. And I like the ability to watch some of the right-leaning ones just so I'm aware of what they're saying. So one of the biggest benefits of YouTube is sort of the ability to keep an eye on the way that they're linguistically twisting things. Hey, how they can trace in a fraction of a second where something comes from, it's 3 lines of code. I agree, Edward, and it should be that simple. Yeah. Cohen is the American pronunciation. Cone is British or English, right? Okay. Let's see. Scrolling back and reading what you guys are putting up there. Let's see. Because obviously it was a great conversation going on. Let's see. WWS. I get kicked off Twitter, emailed them, and they put me back on right away. Yeah, that happens because sometimes right wingers will, will use the tactic of the left in as subterfuge. That's one of the biggest problems with the no platforming idea is that it in a society with equal protection it has to cut both ways, and unless you're willing to disenfranchise all voices, which unfortunately a lot of times gets used as ammo, like, well, they don't have an argument, so they can't let us even talk, is disingenuous and not true, and it's and I think dangerous in a society that recognizes the value of free speech. I watch Joe Rogan because he is right-wing as well as left-wing guests, and they get into the weeds. Joe Rogan, to his credit, pushes back against the libertarian statement by Dave Rubin. Yeah, I saw that too. I like Joe. Joe's a good dude. I don't agree with him on everything, clearly, but there's no reason why I should expect to. But I think he has a good soul, and I think he tries really hard to be fair, and I think he tries, his decisions and ideas are his own after he's come to, he's done some thought. You might disagree with his conclusions or his ideas, but it's not, he didn't come to them flippantly, I don't think. Kyle Kalinske gave the argument of voting green if you were in a safe blue state. He exclaimed that's what he was doing because he was white, he could take the hit. That's just dumb. It's ignorant. It's a waste. It's stupid. It's foolish. It gives away the mandate. It's a mistake because they don't say that, a bunch of people voted green, so they're even further left of the Democratic Party. They just go, this is how many the Dems got, this is how many the Republicans got. Nobody takes that stuff seriously except within, the sort of interior, circular firing squad of left of Dem politics. And if you look at what again, people who are saying like Ocasio-Cortez's win is indicative of the power of socialists or whatever. She's a Dem, chose to be a Dem, campaigned as a Dem nonstop for 2 years, wore out her shoes, knocked on every door, earned every vote she got. But one of the reasons she won was because they had a historically low turnout in that primary race, and the guy who Crowley has been basically an absentee landlord in running that district because he's in party power, so he's been focused on the Washington aspect of it, and he just hasn't been in the neighborhood a bunch. And all politics being local, it's not surprising that he lost his seat to a beautiful, telegenic, intelligent, hardworking campaigner. Excuse me. And I like her politics. I like what she's for. But you can argue that the idea that she somehow guarantees that if you just run left of whoever you're going to get in is absurd. It's not enough, and especially in these edgy districts. And I'm not willing to give up what effectively would be, as bad as the Blue Dogs were, They were infinitely better in a lot of cases than having a Republican in that office. And in those districts, that's the only thing that will make it. There's a rare flippable, where simply an anti-establishment lefty or righty will take over because it's the anti-establishment sentiment is the thing, not the policy. Because if they actually got into it, they wouldn't actually be for the implemented policies and would drum them out, and then it becomes a cycle of they flip back and forth each time. Joe Crowley took his playbook from Eric Cantor, hence why he lost. I don't know that he had a playbook at all. Is his problem? Is that I think he was busy trying to, run a sort of a national level office in a congressional district. In congressional districts, you got to run every 2 years. You're always running to some degree. So, senators can do that. Senators can spend the 2 middle years of their term not even in the district, honestly. Cool. Well, thanks for the DM, Julie. So I think you got to vote, and if you're going to say we do it, I just think it's sorry, I was just reading a message that I got or whatever. Let's see. Let's see. I just started getting messages all over the place. The lovely and talented Greg Proops sent me a message as well. The important thing, is that if like I said, if you're going to push the party left, you do it during the primary, and then you keep that pressure on. You do it in a supportive way where you voice strength for the ideas all the time, not kind of pissing and moaning about the Max Baucuses of the world, even though we talk about them. Like I said, in the middle of that, you can't. They can go home and you can complain about them all you want, but in the cycle leading up to it, it's got to be about the issues themselves. And if you can constantly push the issue left as best you can, you do that with unrelenting pressure as much as you can. And then once voting time comes around, the idea is saying, yes, basically primaries fall in love, general fall in line. I wouldn't even say fall in line. I would say get in line, push the line, be the line. Be the line is really it. Because until we have a majority where the creation of a third party would be a natural extension of the where you're talking about 35% or of the electorate as opposed to 8 or 4 or anything less than 35 is a waste of time. It just is. And the thing is, the problem is you have some people who will, because they don't like the two-party system for president, or they think it's the lesser of two evils, instead of being an adult and voting for the lesser of the two evils so the greater of the two evils doesn't do great evil, which is currently what is happening, they just blow it off. Because quite frankly, as loud as they are about marching, voting is a quiet effort. And aside from your little sticker, there's not a lot of, and you saying who did it, who you voted for, and telling people whether, and no one knows if that's true or not. Unlike a march, which you can say, here I am at this thing. You don't get the kind of societal lift that when you're voting. And I think just a lot of people blow it off. They get, especially the Yeah. So uh, once once the NRA has their bank records subpoenaed, um, to that will be the sign that the criminal investigation is starting to move forward on them, that they're aware of that stuff, or that they have any of these, if they've gotten, because in subpoenaing stuff from foreign banks, it's actually, there's fewer protections for some of them depending on how the money was funneled in than the actual American entities. What years are millennials? What is it? 91 to 2010, something like that. Is that right? I mean, it's 20 years, which always seems long. The other thing, too, is like the youth vote. They already talk about the youth vote. The problem is it gets talked about as if it exists. It's a rolling group of human beings at a level of maturity that is not quantifiable. You cannot. People in general in a relatively homogenous cultural society come to the same conclusions in their 60s and 70s, with not a ton. It's the idea that it's why people allegedly become more conservative when they're older. Is you can kind of track by age how people settle down into an ideology or into a concept, and they stay there. Even if they're straight up hippies, they're consistent about it, right? That's something that consistency is something you could track. And young people, every generation swamps in and out. And for all this talk about we need the millennial vote, This strikes me. If you watch YouTube at all, a lot of the MAGA hat crowd are. I think I'm being talked to through the door. That's really cool. I'm on the air still. I'll talk to you in a minute. Love you. Um, that there are as many millennials who support, who are following the Milo Yiannopoulos and the Ben Shapiro's, and it's like the argument that we need more, women or minorities in office. You need good people who are those people in office. Having Ann Coulter and Ben Carson in charge of things isn't automatically better. And the same thing is true of an age range. You can't go, well, the millennials will fix this. Nah, not so much. The Parkland kids, yeah, they're amazing. But there's a ton of them that are MAGA hat wearers. There are less hateful younger people. I would not automatically bank on that. That behavior has to be cultured. And there's a huge pushback in the millennial, as far as voter groups and the like, and their motivations and whatnot. When you can't take it for granted, is what I'm saying. Lots of young online gamers have been sucked into the white supremacist mold. Generation X can do just their thing without being put down. Baby boomers now. We do your Gen X. We had a MAGA store open locally on 4th, and it closed on 5th of July. It seemed they could not manage their money. Either that or they were just doing pop-up stores just for the 4th. I don't know. Who's to say? Think Cam is a shy boy? Yeah, no. Majority millennial vote who don't like Democratic Party members tend to get unaffiliated. Yeah, well, that's a tendency in younger people to call themselves independents when they're actually not. But the problem is independents don't tend to vote. There's a lot of people who identify. There's more people who identify as independents if you talk to them, and they just don't vote. They don't bother. They either don't know how to register, or they haven't bothered to, or they do and then they forgot, and they don't know what their polling place is. They use the sort of the lazy part of it to just give themselves a break. Yeah, Cam is not shy. The reason why we think there are the same number of conservative younger people is the media skewing our view of that demographic. But here's the thing. It matters who's voicing what's being said, and younger voters tend to be more crowd oriented. They tend to vote the way their generation perception is. So, as opposed to the millennials who are going alt-right, who are mostly Caucasian. Yeah, that's not 100% the case either, Evernum. I mean, I'm just saying, that's one, like I said, it's one of the reasons why I kind of keep an eye on that side of things. If you watch the actual millennial YouTubers and who's leaving them comments. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, vote. The important thing is vote. Be registered to vote. If you're gonna, if you lean left and you want left principles and stuff, then be involved in the party platform process. Be involved, with the candidates. And if they don't go left enough for you, then spend that election cycle till the next one getting them there. And yelling at them isn't enough. Protest isn't enough. Come up with a policy recommendation. Write it down. Go to one of the groups that advocates for those things and volunteer. You know what I mean? Like, most people just kind of, shrug off, these guys they're all bought and paid for, because that's easier than doing the work. But the media doesn't want to cover young progressives unless they are rock stars like Ocasio-Cortez, but only when she wins, right? Yeah, from some of the YouTube channels I go to, the younger people are still railing against Obama and Hillary Clinton. I want it to be just be echo chamber, but I don't see it there. Black. Yeah, it's not. That's what I mean. I don't know that it's just that echo chamber, and the belief that it is it's dangerous because it dismisses. Again, you kind of need to know who you're up against, and if you have a perception of them that's villainous. And completely vanilla, you're going to lose a greater and greater chunk of them over time. So why do we all have to have labels? Because we have to converse, and we don't want to have to redefine ourselves every single time we have a conversation. And it does help to group together in descriptives and philosophies and the idea if you want any kind of a conversation to go on from there. It's kind of like it's like saying, why do we have to camp halfway Everest? Why can't we go to sleep at night, start back at the bottom, and climb up, make the whole climb the next day, and then we camp out and we never make it to the top because we're always making the same climb? Linguistically, it's the reason why we have labels. It's why we have pronouns. It's why we have proper names, is because we don't want to have that who are you conversation every time we talk. Trump's ties are all made overseas, and the only thing he gets from here is McDonald's. That some Mexicans probably spit in when they see him kind of ordering it. Well, they don't know he's ordering it. That's the thing. That's why he orders it to go. And they always bring it to him. The right wing has mastered the art of getting their message out, and the mainstream media eats it up because they're terrible at their jobs. Sure. Okay. What good does that do, though? I think the lesson of that would be master your messaging. On our side, we got to be better at it then. And the mainstream media aren't terrible at their jobs. That is their job. I mean, they're in the squeaky wheel business. Yeah, from some of the other YouTube channels. Okay. Vote even if you're overseas like me. Reach out to Democrats abroad. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we can fault the right wing all you want. You can blame anybody else you want. If that gets you closer to actually solving the problem, great. Sounds magical. But if it doesn't, you essentially become part of the problem. You reinforce the narrative that they are strong and you are weak, that they are good at something, you're bad at something, that being good at messaging and good at policy are somehow mutually exclusive, which I've never believed. Like I said, we've always fought, the Republicans have ceded all the ideas around freedom entirely. But they kept the word, and we let them. Andrew Mitchell only has a show because she's married to Alan Greenspan. Well, she's been a reporter for a very long time, though. It doesn't hurt, but she's also been, she's the one who's like yelling questions at Trump. Above everybody else, even the youngsters. So, Trump's Secret Service detail are his food order people. Little does Trump know that his presidential cycle is the first ever in which the Secret Service spit in the president's food. Also, if you live in a blue district, you can also volunteer for a Dem in a red district across town. That is absolutely true. Knock on doors. I mean, when I went door to door for Obama, I did it in Cincinnati. Was born there, but I wasn't raised there or whatever. But we went into some pretty red districts over there to knock on doors for Obama and campaign. And during the first, I did both elections, but the first one especially, there was a numerical value to knocking on those doors. You got to have, I'm a big believer in overwhelming mandate, especially if the like in the case of Hillary Clinton, where at the very least, whether you believed or not the what she was saying, what she was giving lip service to, even if you believe she was being disingenuous, was all the stuff that people wanted. And so when you don't vote for that message, you say to the right wing, I'm not for that message. Not, I don't believe her, she's not going to go through with it, because you stayed home and you let a guy who said the exact opposite plus worse, you let him move ahead. So you probably believe more of what he believes. Mainstream media also ignores Dem messages. Dems hold press conferences and they don't cover them. It appears to the public that Dems are not doing anything. I completely agree. I also think it's, that there are some who are great. Ted Lieu is terrific. There are a few Democrats who are good at the messaging angle of it, and as they work their way up in the party, they're increasingly good at presenting those kind of things. If Adam Schiff wasn't having to get Trump on board, like kind of deal with the Mueller investigation, if he wasn't dealing so much with Trump stuff during that, the same voice that he has, articulating that would be fantastic. If he was articulating, whatever particular policy specialty he wanted to have, if we weren't in this, Trump nonsense all the time. Progressives need to stop discussing things all the time and do what Father Flagger did today. Be direct and say we are taking over the entire Dan Ryan. I agree if it amounts to more than just irritating people who were in traffic. Because they might become, just taking over those that kind of direct action all the time, people will just become hostile to the message. To some degree, that happened with Black Lives Matter. Some of the hostility towards Black Lives Matter that grew came because of certain direct action tactics that came out of it. I'm not saying people are right or it's okay. I'm saying, does it help the message? Does it get your point across? So that's a discussion that's a decision you have to make when you're talking about the kind of direct action you're going to have and stuff. And I support this. I think it's great that they shut it down. If they did it every day for a month, eventually people would hate the cause, and ignore it and say that this is simply just disgruntled whomevers doing whatever. Like they would just write it off. It would become generic, is my point. The GOP is hell-bent on bankrupting average Americans. Agreed. I mean, it's the greatest way to keep people who have been bootstrapping their whole lives from, competing with your third-generation rich kids is make sure they don't have the opportunities to get out of poverty, so that you never have to, your kids never have to compete for a piece of property in the real estate game with somebody who, is smarter and more driven than them. I mean, that's why you protect your offspring when they're dumb, and you're rich. That's why you Paris Hilton and Eric Trump your way through these kind of things. Sadly, faux news were able to distort the message of Black Lives Matter, which to be nitpicky might have been more distortion resistant, with the addition of another word, Black Lives Matter too. Yeah, well, that was the understood word, the message drift, which is a natural part of that, is always difficult. Black Lives Matter made some early mistakes of attacking people on the left as opposed to the righties. I'm a BLM supporter, by the way. Yeah, I mean, obviously making more of an effort to storm the stages of Bernie and Hillary, and a lot of, you find out that's why the Russians started their own Black Lives Matter pages and tried to, create infighting and all that kind of stuff. Bye, Natalie. Thanks. It's again, you have to go, okay, yeah, direct action is necessary. What's the most effective direct action I can take? Is this it? I mean, that's always a part of it, right? The recession is going to hit all Americans pretty hard. Yeah, this, I'm looking at this denuclearization nonsense. The tariffs and all that stuff, it's going to take a little while, and again, there was somebody making the argument that, the best thing that could happen to the Democrats is that they lose this fall, so that when the recession that Trump has created actually comes, Dems won't be in charge trying to fix it while it's happening. But if there isn't anybody that's like saying, I'll teach these kids not to play, run around the pool, they're going to fall and slip and crack their head. So you know what? I hope the lifeguard's car breaks down on his way into the pool today. That's like, I get the frustration, but it's completely stupid. Whatever. A liberal says you can't debate someone that listens to Fox News. They don't know anything. I think you can. You just can't. You can't have a factual argument with them because they're not interested. You can embarrass them though, and you can listen to what they're saying and turn it back on them. Dissect their argument to them. Whenever you're debating someone, a lot of times you're not debating the facts of what they're saying, especially if they don't have any. If you can debate facts, you should. If you're debating, that, and that's the issue with social justice a lot of times, is that facts don't bear out people's social experience in life. It's, you can cite all the psychological studies you want, you can cite all the, financial studies or whatever, but that's not a good indicator of happiness, satisfaction, any number of effects that actually better people's lives. So when you're talking about those kind of things, you can debate back and forth to where it means nothing. In those circumstances, you can, though, look at the ethics of the person that you're discussing and break down how they are violating their own ethics by what they're saying. Most of the time, right-wingers do that. One of the reasons why I stopped going to Northside Democracy for America meetings here in Chicago is they spend more time talking and less time doing, and their endorsement process is problematic. My favorite word, problematic. Allowing the world to burn is not an option. That's what got us into this mess when people supported people to completely so completely unfit for these important roles. Yeah, no way if Dems don't get the flips they need in 2018, the coming recession is guaranteed to be worse than if Dems get the House and Senate and actually fight Trump on tax cuts by reversing them. I agree. Also, the group is majority white, cis-het, older people. Well, nothing like a little racism, ageism, and sexism. CPT, where fasts matter. That's right. Well, we do fast runner. Would blackmail be considered a form of embarrassment? Sure. Well, it's based on it. Arguably, unless you're talking about a criminal activity, you're blackmailing someone based on criminal ramifications. What they're doing. Most of the time, when it comes to Trump and Putin, the belief is that he has compromise that's embarrassing to Trump. I disagree. I think the stuff that he's really hiding would have to be violently criminal for Trump to protect it that much, or financially so valuable that Trump is protecting it. And I think that's actually, the more I watch this going down, the less, because I don't think Trump thinks he does anything wrong in these situations. He doesn't know he's doing something wrong, but he does know when he's doing business with somebody that he doesn't want to lose the investment, the money. I don't mean it that way, Hal. It's that other voices are left out because they don't invite people in from other demographics. Unless they exclude them, that's not their problem. If they're excluding people based on those things, if they're saying anybody who isn't cishet, white, or old, you can't come to the meetings, then we have a problem. If you don't show up because you don't like the people, that's totally different. They live in a bubble. Well, okay, but they're at a progressive Dem thing. Arguably, I'm guessing their platform is pretty open. Even if they just want to talk, they just need more activists. They don't message to other demographics on the north side. Are they intentionally not? I'm saying it's yeah. I'm not quite sure what the goal of getting those people to not show up for their for meetings is stuff they care about then, because all those people are arguably showing up because they care about these issues and they want them. They can't change their skin color, their sexuality, their gender, or their or their age. So the only option they have is to not show up. If other people aren't showing up because they feel surrounded in that circumstance, then that's about building a much more confident group to enter into it. As someone who's on the north side, they do reach out and have people of different demographics. Carrie, same problem I feel with the Democrats here in DeKalb. Too much talking and no diversity of demographics. White, cishet, well-off, older people. It might be the demographic of the actual place, just by volume. Does that mean they don't care? That's the question. I don't know these people, so it's more. Again, you're talking about things that they themselves can't change in themselves, and so you have two options. One, either they invite more people in or don't show up themselves. How do you have a prediction on how much longer Mueller will be in this investigation? I think it doesn't come down until after the election. I think November is the closest. I think Mueller's investigation coming out in November is the best. One of their leaders constantly criticizes Hillary and Obama. Yeah, you mean like Bill Press? So, hello? Excuse you? Oh, Gigi needs to ask me something. Yeah?
Are you done?
Nope.
Okay. He wants to go down to the pool room, so we're gonna go check it out.
Okay. All right. Do you have the key and everything? You good? Okay. You guys are going to the pool to the secret base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you go now.
Okay, thanks. Democracy for America hasn't really been relevant for a long time. Again, I think ultimately discouraging anybody who wants to be involved or cares about, liberal, progressive, or democratic ideals is a mistake. If a group needs to be more diverse and you are not a member of that group, go be the diversity. If you can't be the diversity in that group that's lacking white cishet old people, join that group. Be a voice there. If you're welcome. If you're not, go back to the north side and join the group that will have you or whatever, and we'll all just tribalize out into nothing. I will say this. I was sharing my progressive radio experiences with a right-winger, and not once did he name-call me or badmouth me. I do find that to be more of a fixture of our side internally. Now, granted, I don't interact with Tea Partiers and the right wing, and I don't go to things like CPAC, and those guys can be vicious too, and they're armed, so I'm sure they run into their own version of this. WWS, start your own group. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I care about what directly affects people in my neighborhood on a daily basis and go to hearings and meetings on that. That's a good idea. Yeah. I will say this. Let's see. There are decent ones out there. They are so few and far between, though. Then cultivate them. Then that's the effort. That's the possibility. How do you think that Facebook has cleaned up its act for the coming election? I wouldn't trust anything that comes out of Facebook from a political or a socio-political standpoint at all, as a general rule, even if it seems friendly. Until they clear 3 elections with no stuff. And again, that's you have to operate on the kind of concept that I will trust this once it's been multiply verified, you know what I mean? And that's, here, this is the most conservative thing about me, is that I would say that when somebody, makes a promise or presents me with a philosophical idea that, I want to see some verification of it first, and in the, in the case of, Facebook, they did so much damage. It would take a long time before I go, oh yeah, Facebook's been around for 10 years. The last 3 elections, they've had 0 play on it. The uptick on military widowed guys with 1 or 2 photos and no friends makes me very cautious. Yeah. I've been distancing myself from Facebook. I'm moving to Discord. I end up more on Twitter because I can, blocking and muting people is way easier when they're phony and whatnot, and then stick to the, YouTube because at least you can see me saying stuff. I'm in a different position because I'm, as a blue check, as somebody who's known, I stand by what I say, and I am, who I am. I do have to, unless I know you guys through being in the chat room or something like that, I have to take everything that comes my way with a grain of salt, and I think that's a healthy option anyways. Can we go back to local town halls, invite all citizens in to routine discussions of problems, successes, and areas? I mean, that's the argument for going to your city council meetings. Indivisible Aurora was the group that got Aurora's first Pride Parade to happen last month. Now the mayor of Aurora, a black straight cis guy, is already talking to them to make it bigger next year. This is intersectionality in action. How so? It sounds like an ally helping to make the Pride Parade happen. I don't know that. Are you saying because he's black that's why he's talking to the Pride Parade organizers to make it bigger next year? And then he wouldn't if he was white or Asian or Middle Eastern, or is that what you mean? Same with Google and YouTube, but Google has started to encrypt their own server-to-server connections to minimize outside people spying on them. Those kind of security things, I'm not surprised on, ever. I used to have 700 friends on Facebook, but I totally deleted my presence there. I only miss the people I used to know. Yeah, I mean, I have it, but I've kind of ghosted my Facebook page. My agent hates it because everybody thinks that's the way. Many different demographics on the progressive side doing something positive. Yeah, I sure, Carrie. I don't know that means that there's a. I mean, I think what's actually happened is you've got a progressive, who is interested in helping the gay pride organization. I think it's his race, sex, or gender identity are relatively meaningless to his decision-making process, because I mean, when Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco, I marched with him from Harvey Milk Square, for marriage equality. He's white, cis, het male, and he cares a lot about the issue. Always did. That you wouldn't consider that intersectionality, though. You just can, you know what I mean? Like I don't know what that. Yeah. Anyways, Aurora has the most Latino people in Illinois outside of Chicago. Okay. Is it sad that I enjoy remaining in my cave when it comes to political affairs these days, but when I want to know what's currently going on, I go to hell? No, I try to be helpful that way. I try to keep people informed on that stuff. It's like if you're not on Facebook anymore, you're not a person or alive sometimes. Ellie, that's the thing about social media is I think that's just a feeling. I don't know that that's true, and I think most people have a lot more personal interactions in the course of their day than they're even aware of. And sometimes being on social media, especially Facebook, like Twitter's short bursts, and you're still back with your people. Facebook with posting and like kind of the weight of the amount of volume of stuff that goes into that. I think it takes up more of your time and effort than Twitter or watching something on YouTube. You know what I mean? And I think social media should be in short bursts. We talk about the lack of people having a short attention span kind of aspect of social media, when that's what it should be for. Your long attention span should be for the people that are in your actual life. Hal, you're so helpful. I was just thinking of the great service you provide by being here every week and bringing down for us. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. I'm glad you guys are here. So many people are deleting Facebook. I only have it for Windy City Times and the Legacy Project. Yeah. Depends on the demographic, I think. You reach different people for different things on different platforms. The people who juggle them effortlessly inspire them. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that people do. If Gavin Newsom ran for president, I wouldn't rule out voting for him. I'd vote for him. He's a good human being. He really is. I'm glad you're a Hal head too, Charles. I'm lucky to have more than one head. Huh? Not true. I'm not on Facebook at all. I take a line from Get Smart and loving it. Social media destroys in-person interaction filters. Maybe. I mean, I think you can do it, and you can be involved. I think you set rules for yourself. I'm a big believer in when you first sit down at the table and when the check comes, you're allowed to be on your phones. Anytime in between, you get 3 to 5 minutes. If you're the kind of person who takes a picture of their food, you get a window till the food has been delivered, and you can take one picture of it. And then the entire time you're consuming your food to when the check comes, you don't post or do anything. And then you can take pictures all you want, but you don't post them. And then just like if you had a camera, and then after when the check comes, in between the bill arriving and you paying and change or the card coming back, you can get back on your phone and social media or whatever. But that's a good general rule when you're with friends out for an evening and you're still doing social media kind of things. And it's a good rule to just start with. You may decide after a while you just I don't even pick out my phone at all. That's on you. But I think as a general rule, most groups of friends I've been around where you're like, hey, this is the general rule, guys. When you sit down, you go, okay, no phones after we start eating and until they drop off the check and come and get it, whatever the payment is. As soon as the waiter has taken the payment and has gone away to get your change or bring the cards back or run cards or whatever, that's when you can start doing it again. But that whole middle part at a meal with friends or family or whatever, none of it. Everybody puts their phone away. So, there's a truck backing up, I think. My general rule is I don't own a cell phone. How very 1991 of you. Do you have a beeper? Just a reminder, hit the thumbs up if you haven't yet. Yeah, that's true. Meanwhile, like and subscribe. Switch to a full VPN and secure encrypted email for all my personal stuff, avoiding the bubble created by all this content being molded to the user so you can stop seeing things outside your interests. I completely agree. Can't stop lying. I use a VPN as well. At some point, I probably wouldn't rule out being one of those people who like this episode is brought to you by such and such a VPN, because I was not a big user before, but obviously when I went to China and had to use one, I got to know what they were for. And that one thing about not spookily being told by every browser thing that of what you were just looking at is pretty great. I use a VPN now so I can pay in dollars. Yeah, that's right, Julie. Yeah, if it's one of those things like, Tom, is always saying he can't, set up, can't do super chat because he's in Canada. You can do that actually if you use a VPN and just let it think you're in the States. It works. I had a flip phone until 6 months ago. I miss it. What are you, an FBI agent? I think that's smart, Carrie. Really focusing on the experience of them. And I do the exact same thing too. If you guys notice, I've what are effectively social media blackouts during parts of my day. It's because it's not that I couldn't post or something. It's that I'm just choosing not to. I'm spending time with Camden, or or we're doing something, or I'm with, I'm doing work around the house or whatever, and I'm not. I take specific breaks if I'm gonna do those kind of things, But yeah, so VPNs are for prawn reference to that old demented unlicensed Muppet Show song. The internet is for, yeah. Also watch BBC, etc., and things in other countries the U.S. can't access normally for VPN. That's true. I spent time talking to people I sat with at your Chicago Life. That's awesome. Who is on the phone more, you or Summer? We both use it mostly for work. I certainly do more social media posting than she does, unless there's a pet drive or something political that we're both into at the same time. I'm probably on there, certainly on Twitter more. But again, when we're together, I compartmentalize my time, so I'm not, just constantly on my phone distracted. Sometimes I'll get on a tear and I just kind of disappear into it for a little while, and I either, if it's happening, I'll let her know beforehand, but if I'm in the middle of it, I just kind of get lost in it and then come out and go, hey, sorry, I was in a flame war. You had to train yourself to put it down. It's smart. I mean, you have to. I mean, ultimately, you can be in control of your own activity as you choose to be, no matter what it is. And that's the important thing. That's the lesson of all this stuff. Be in command of what you do. If you're, and it's funny because I get a lot of people on here like you are too, saying I'm still not on Twitter. There's a ton of people who just, who believe what we believe and feel very strongly about progressive ideals and stuff, but they're just not on social media, and they're certainly not on YouTube. YouTube has been ceded a lot to the right wing. I have almost all notifications turned off, only 2 breaking news ones on my email and not Twitter. Yeah. You can miss your kids growing up. That's sad. This is true. And they can miss the time spent with you, too, because they're outside the space. That's why Camden doesn't have an iPad. He's 7, and he can watch movies on mine when we're flying or when we're driving long distances. But I don't have apps on there that he plays with and games and that kind of stuff, because watching a movie is what we all do, watching a movie, but I'm not going to just drive him to, getting that weird video game attachment. And if we do play video games, he and I do it together. And he doesn't play on his own, doesn't play video games by himself ever. But we'll play Lego, Marvel stuff on Xbox together. Because we'd go on little adventures together, and it's just like playing. And then when we go and play with actual Legos, it's kind of it's reciprocal. It spawns creativity and messing with that. So that's it, Hal. Plus, I've had to deal with a stalker. Yeah, well, Don't get me started. I'll mute the sound to cover an event for the paper and forget to turn it back on. That happens too. I do that because you can do it on your watch. On your Apple Watch, there's a thing on there where you can put it on like do not disturb kind of thing or movie mode, and I've done that before. We're looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday in Pasadena. I know it'll be a great show. Wife is sure you'll remember us from Dodger Stadium. Absolutely. Bob and Gigi. That's it. How plus if it is. Yeah. Thank you, Julie. I try to be smart about it. And Carl isn't with us this week because he's they're away doing something. I forget. He mentioned last week, and I'm totally blitzing on what he said. He'll be back next week. Yeah, this Thursday. It's funny because I just got asked to do another show this Thursday, but I'm already booked, and it's too late to change it. But we'll see. That might be a weird because I think somebody had a dropout. So, but I don't think so. I don't intend to change it. So, but it's when it rains it pours. I keep missing you when you're in the Cincinnati area. That's because Aaron, when I'm there, I'm basically hanging out with. I'm not doing shows there. I'm hanging out with family or flying airplanes. Turn my phone completely off once the trailers start when I go see a movie. I remember extremely violent urges when someone's phone rang during a found footage movie and took me out of said movie. Yeah, well, I'm very like we went and saw Ant-Man and Wasp last night, which was great. Lovely movie, cute, whatever. And Cam's getting better at not talking during the movie. That's the thing. The important thing is making sure he doesn't speak. Okay, I'm coming back. But yeah, so I got to take off because we're gonna go to the aquarium, but and they're back from playing in the secret hideout. But yeah, next week's show will be I'll be doing it from DC. Actually, no, is that the week after? Yeah, in 2 weeks I'll be doing it from DC. Next week I'm here. And the DC show, we're looking for a station there. I'm going to try to have an in-studio guest for that, so keep your fingers crossed with me that that'll actually work. So, yeah, Aquarium of the Pacific. I love the leafy sea dragons and otters. Yes, that's the right. That's the one we're going to. Pool time is over. It's dad time. That's exactly right. So thank you guys for sticking around with me, and we'll see you there. And then in D.C., I'm there for the Humane Society event on Sunday the 22nd. So the 21st, I'm either going to do a live radio thing in D.C. If you're in the D.C. area, we might. If I can't do that, I will do like a tweet up afterwards. And it helps me to figure out. You guys let me know if that's at all possible. I'll put out a tweet up bubble to see if anybody bites about that, like after radio for about an hour or an hour and a half. 90 minutes is, I think, a decent amount of time. So, anyways, you guys are awesome, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much to all our super chatters today. Really appreciate it. And again, rip to Ed Schultz. Completely agree. And still haven't seen Infinity War. I recommend it. Talk about an intersectional ending. I'll be driving through the Balkans, 7 more countries in 2 weeks. I'll tune in from there. Wow. That's amazing, Julie. I envy you your travel time. So, peace. So, yeah, you guys take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time. Anybody who's just watching the post show, we do a full want to talk about and kind of extension of the show itself. And join us here, like and subscribe to the channel, and you can join in the chat. And eventually, if you're with us long enough, you get a blue patch and all the stuff that goes with it. So, by the way, anybody who's coming to the upcoming, you have a blue patch which entitles you to an extra ticket, so you can bring somebody. I've got a bunch of shows coming, but